going forward as we continue to grow?
Sure. Biggest project for this year is evaluating our technology and making sure that we are utilizing the best technology possible to move us forward. So that is, definitely number one on my list is to continue to grow and expand that to help us in the future. We're going to continue to review employee handbook and processes, putting more things onto paper so that we can give more guidelines to our team. I know that there's a want for that out in the field, and so I want to make sure that we're looking at that and we're developing it. And, this is something I want to develop with our managers and with our team members. This is not something I want to do on my own, so I see that as a part of it. And continuing to grow our department to make sure that we're providing best services to everyone. So making sure we keep up with that growth and we're able to, be available to everyone when they need us.
And we do for the support staff, and now we're starting this, for Q1 in 2019. It's funny because I feel like in a lot of respects, part of your job is to always think about things backwards, like, because we're still dealing with Q1 of 2019, sure. Even though like we're in Q2.
Yeah, sure.
So did you help develop, so we call them QDMs, which is quarterly development meetings. And for the support staff, I've been involved with them since you started. And so we have those, forms that we fill out that are kind of based on the tenets of PetWell, and, it's the, needs improvement, meets expectations, exceeds expectations. And then I like that there's a goal section, because when we first did it, everybody was really confused, like all of the staff, because they were like, what do you mean I have to have a goal? Like I come to work. And it was neat to see their brains kind of switch into that, oh no, I'm an active part of the team. I definitely bring something to the table, and part of my responsibility is always think about what I need to bring next. And I've loved watching, over the last like 2.5 years, the staff, they always have goals now, and they're very excited about their goals. And I think that's really cool. And I know for the associates, this was the first time I had done reviews with my 3 associate veterinarians, and it was neat doing them because we did the self-review, and then we did the review where I went over it with them and we set their goals, and it was the same thing with the veterinarians, which I thought was interesting. Like they didn't really think about what their goals were until you made them write it down, which I assume is part of your strategy. So
absolutely,
good job.
Yeah. Well, and with the QDMs, I had one of our operations managers just said this yesterday, and I thought it was so great. But he said, we get into the world of calling it a QDM, but to not forget to say this is a development meeting. This is a way for you to say, here's where I want to go in my career. Here's an area that I want to be better at. Here's something that interests me. And you get to sit down with your manager or your supervisor, whoever is giving you this, and say, this is important to me, and they can say, how can I help you get there? And it's a team effort. And I think being able to realize that at PetWell, we want people to have goals and career growth goals, because that just makes all of us better. And it's going to be able to provide better services to our clients and our patients if we're constantly trying to just be a little bit better. We don't have to have crazy goals that are going to take forever to get to. We can even have just little goals that are maybe a quarter or 2 quarters to get there, but it's going to provide something more to our overall goal of pets and their families come first. So, I like that it really focuses you on that. And, some of the tenants, are just strictly, are we living up to what we're saying we're going to do? And then how can we help you develop your career? I like that piece too. And that was developed actually before I was a part of PetWell. And then I was able to take that and continue to grow it a little bit more to dial it into what we really want to focus on, which is career development.
And so a lot of those forms, then you said some of them came, some of the parts of the form came before you were there, and then you kind of added to it or tweaked it?
Yeah, so the original QDMs were were established with Daisy White. And so if anyone's ever spoken with Daisy White, they know that she's a great career coach and developer. And, she really believes in thinking forward and thinking what's my next step. And so that is just such a great way to think of your, professional life, that I don't want to mess with that. And I was able to just dial it down so that maybe it wasn't quite so overwhelming of a form to complete for our managers. So just make it a little simpler so it doesn't have to, take quite as long to complete them.
Yeah. I conned Daisy and she's going to be in the podcast at some point. Yeah. So we'll see. Brevity is not in either of our blood, so we'll see how long that one is.
that is a fair assessment. She is a fun person to talk to, though, and she sure has a lot of really good advice to give. So I feel fortunate to get to work with her too.
So I do have, this is just kind of a random question, as far as the part where we are filling it out, and there's it goes through the tenets of PetWell, and then it says dependability. And Jessica, my practice manager, and I had this debate about what dependability meant, because in her mind it meant it was similar to punctual, right? Like they show up on time, but they also are there to show up. And my interpretation was, well, they can show up, but they may not be dependable. You may not be able to ask them to accomplish X, Y, and Z task, even though they're just like a warm body that's in the building. So then we didn't know what it meant, and we weren't sure which direction. So we kind of approached it from both, but I didn't know if that was, like, if you had an idea as far as dependability, which direction that was supposed to be in, or if it was meant to be ambiguous.
Yeah, I think that you as the manager need to decide what you consider that to mean, and then make sure that definition is known to your team members. So, some people, just like you said, some people are going to consider dependability. I can depend on you to be on the schedule and show up every time you're on the schedule. You are not going to call me 5 minutes before and say, sorry, I'm not coming. Other people, it's coming, doing your job, but also being able to follow through. And, when the appointments are over, that there's going to be follow-up phone calls, and you don't have to worry about that. And I think it's okay for y'all to have slightly different thoughts on what it means, just as long as the team that you're talking with understands what their manager's interpretation of it is. Then it's what you feel it means.
Yeah, no, it was just, it sparked, it was like the great QDM debate of Q4 2018. Both of our brains exploded, and we were like,
It could be anything.
Well, because most of the time it lines up.
I think that it could be both of those things, and it is important, though, that the team knows what you think it means, so that they're all on the same page as you. That expectation has to be set. Yeah,
it was a very neat sociologic kind of
there you go.
Unintended experiment. And the other thing that I think is interesting about and one of the things Jessica and I really stress, and I tried to stress with the associates, because everybody gets nervous when you hear you're going to start having like a quarterly meeting, is if I have an issue, I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to store it away like a squirrel and then do this dramatic reveal at the end of the year. We're going to talk about it at the time, but the more important part is for us then to just assess, all right, well, we had an issue, or we talked about improving this. How did that reflect over the last quarter? But what I think is very interesting, and I don't know if this is, again, just because it's the first time I'm doing it with the associates, but with the support staff, a lot of times, all of our team members hustle and they do a great job. And if you have an issue and you bring it up at the time, right, or, shortly thereafter, and we address it and we move on, when you then come to your quarterly meeting and you say, hey, we had these issues, we improved, or we had these issues and they're persisting, they always look surprised, like they forgot that you had that conversation. Whereas the associates remember it, and I don't know, it was just interesting. I don't know if that's like a just different like career dynamic, or that was just something, I don't know if that's something you have noticed before.
Yeah, so one of the reasons we meet quarterly is just what you said. Think of a 12-month period of time, all the things that can change in your life, maybe in the direction you want to go. If we're only intentionally sitting down with our team one time a year, we're going to demotivate and we're going to lose really great team members. So the point of doing it on a quarterly basis is to make feedback the norm, and so that when you do in the moment pull someone aside and say, hey, I noticed this, or next time make sure you do this a little differently, that doesn't feel intimidating, that's this is just the way that we operate. We're really open with each other, we communicate in the moment, and then I improve and I kind of take myself up to that next level. So that's kind of the first thing. Then it also lets us get a pulse on how that morale is. So you're sitting down with your team members, you're learning, are they happy to come to work every day? If they're not happy, why are they not happy? So that we can adjust and we can learn and we can change that. And then also to grow the relationship between the manager and the team members. So we don't want our managers to feel unapproachable, and so the more time that PetWell allows in our hospital's work time to purposely connect manager and team member, that's going to grow the trust, that's going to grow their relationship, that's going to keep the team cohesive and on the same page, working towards similar goals. And so it only benefits us to give that time for people to have those conversations. And they're not always, they're not intended to be negative conversations. They're intended to be development. They're intended to be, how can I help you more type of conversations. Here's things I've noticed. How can we get you to that next level? So I hope that's how people see it. And I don't want people to be intimidated by it, because I understand it could be a scary process, but we should be doing it so consistently that it's just, this is just part of the norm. This just happens. This is something, we got to talk about my career again. I want to make sure that I'm on target.
Yeah, I think it's getting there. I think there's still, everyone still has that initial, being called to the principal's office look. But
of course. Well, and it just takes time. And again, if that's the way that that people are feeling at first, I can totally relate to that feeling. And you just have to, the more you do it, the more normalized it feels. So hopefully with time that changes.
Yeah, and I liked when we did, it was right before I went on maternity leave, we did that self-evaluation, and then the staff evaluated the management team or the leadership team.
360 feedback. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I got a problem with the name though, because if you go 360, you're literally back where you started from. So I, other than that, I liked it.
That's what it's called.
I know.
No, I think it's great, and I hope it's something we can kind of continue to. Every 2 to 3 years, do one of those. Maybe more often. It's just having the capacity to do it well. But as a manager, you can learn so much about yourself, especially if you take it to heart what's said and you say, okay, here's areas I need to improve on, or great, people noticed that I did X, Y, and Z for them, and they're noticing. Now I'm motivated to keep doing it. So, I'm a big supporter of those feedback and getting all those different levels. I love it.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. No one likes negative, but you can't improve unless you're aware of things that you may unintentionally do.
And maybe it's not so much negative as it is constructive.
Yes. Ooh, reframing. I like it.
Uh-huh.
HR in motion.
HR term for the day.
Yeah, there you go. Well, and I think I had told you, mentioned this story before, but because I do agree, sometimes it's hard to tell how your staff is responding to things, because, I did this active learning, where we did an Easter egg hunt, but I hid the Easter eggs in areas throughout the hospital where we had our laboratory supplies. And I gave them a checklist, and they had to go through and find all of the items that were on the checklist, or at least most of them, and then they would get Easter eggs, when they found them. And like from the very beginning, I don't know what I'm supposed to be looking for. How many eggs can I take? There's 5 eggs. Am I taking all of them? What am I doing? And I was like, oh